Today, because I'm still waiting for car parts, I can't really do much more on the Riley over there just at the moment. Also, I've got a bit of a headache. I had my second arm poking the other day and I feel a bit funny still after that. So I haven't been feeling too motivated. But I did finish this, which this goes on the bottom of the Sandblaster. Normally it's just a little door that lets you get the sand out, and I wanted to try doing a bottom feed gun. So I got hold of some pipe fittings. I removed the galvanizing off the T-fitting just with some hydrochloric acid, because you don't want to be welding zinc, because that definitely makes you feel sick. So I removed the zinc, welded that to the base of the bottom of the door, and drilled a suitable hole. This is just a blanking plug in the bottom, so you can still undo that to get the sand out if you want. There's a short joiner and then just some couplers to go down to a hose that the gun will then hook to. This up here is a little bleed valve, so you need to be able to bleed air into the system, and this is just an old fitting that I happen to have in my random box of brass fittings. I drilled and tapped down the middle of it, M6, and I drilled a hole through the side. The idea being you can adjust that screw to adjust the amount of air, and then you've got just a little lock nut there. And then I replaced the foam just for the gasket. So I'm going to go and put this back on the cabinet and see if I can hook up the gun to this. So what I need to do is, instead of the long pickup tube, you'll have a hose coming to this, and I want to see if that works any better. This is the little proportioning siphon valve actually installed and working. This is the sort of bleed screw at the top. I haven't found that makes too much difference at the moment, to be honest. And when I first tried this, I used a thicker diameter tube. This is 14mm, just PVC tube. And when I tried it, it didn't look like the sand was being sucked up the tube. So I figured a smaller diameter tube is probably going to be better. It'll give me more sand flow. So I cut the end off and I just used the next size down, because you can sort of push, join these together. You can slide them inside each other and they just jam fit. So I've put that tube on there, and you can see similar. I just cut off the tube that was on the gun and push that end in, which works pretty well because I can easily disconnect this if I need to. And what I found is when you look at it, it doesn't look like it's working. I don't have the extraction on or the compressor on at the moment, but it's going to be a bit awkward to film this, but if I just go by the air that's in the tank at the moment and we turn that on, you can see that it's not a continuous flow of sand off the abrasive grit, but it actually turns out that's enough, and it's working very well. This was the spare pinion carrier that I had that was all rusty, and I put that through there and it just works so much better than it used to. The sand flow is actually even though it doesn't look like it is with what you can see going up the tube, and it hasn't clogged once. My compressor still struggles a little bit. It's a 3-cylinder. It's the biggest single phase one you can get here in New Zealand. And I can't remember what the actual supposed ratings of it are, but I have the air pressure set to about 50 psi for the blasting cabinet. That seems to work well, and I think I get about 12 to 15 seconds of blasting time, and then the compressor will kick in for another 20 seconds to build the pressure back up. This is a free running compressor, so the motor keeps going, the valves open up when it gets to pressure, so it never actually stops, it just keeps the fan running, which is meant to be better for them. But I need to fiddle around a little bit with that valve and just see what the best setting is. It's just a bit awkward to do because you can't see what you're doing in the top of the cabinet and adjust the valve at the same time, so you have to make small adjustments and then just try it. But at the moment it's working really well. I'm amazed at how big a difference that made. So something like this before would have just been painful doing it just very, very slowly. But in this now, it cleaned that up pretty quickly. It looks even better once you get all the dust off it. And my extraction is still working very well. My little dust extractor, for a very cheap sort of product, it's very good. And the whole machine, after I've sealed it up, is losing a lot less sand, but it's almost like they designed the door to dump sand out, media out every time you open the door, because it's got these little holes that just seem to catch the grit, and it just spills out. The one thing I may do is put a little bit of extra foam on the top here, because I think what happens is a lot of it ends up sitting on top like this, and as soon as you open the door it all just falls on the ground. You don't lose too much, but it is a little bit annoying. I did drill the first hole in the wrong place. I wasn't really thinking when I did that. Probably still was a bit woozy after the jab, and I had a headache. So I put the hole there, which is right in the way of where the door closes. But a rubber grommet took care of that, and I do need to get a better grommet for this hole to help there. But you can see how just having it feed the sand through the bottom rather than having to come up this pickup tube is a lot better. Well, a well worth making modification. The next one I'm going to look at, and I actually have I think it's a 50 watt LED light panel, mains powered, really designed for aquariums, but I'm going to go and wire that up and just see how bright that is. And I'm thinking it might be worth making another window in here. The light may not shine exactly where I need it to go though. You might have to sort of angle it a bit, but just going by how much these simple LED lamps help with the lighting, just shining in from the outside here, I may just be able to sit it up here and that's enough to be able to see what's happening. Of course the other problem is the film on the inside charges up statically, so it just attracts all the dust and it gets scratched over time. So seeing through these is always a little bit of a problem. One thing I like about using this Sistema container is you can hook it on and off there with one hand. The catches are really good, but it might be a bit hard to see, but what is picked up, that's an awful lot, and that's very fine dust. It's not the same coarseness as the media that goes in there, which is fairly coarse, of course. This is after it's been used, and it's just the fine dust that gets into the air. I was thinking you'd tip this back in, but now that I look at it, it's so fine it's not going to do any good as a blasting media anymore. So you just probably put it in the garden. But you have to think that's all dust that would be going into your vacuum cleaner if that's what you're using as an extractor. So, like I say, a very cheap and simple device, but it works incredibly well. I probably need to make the mounting of it a little bit more permanent than duct tape, or else just get better quality duct tape, but that's actually reasonably secure there, so it's probably going to stay that way for a little while. And at the moment, obviously I'm using the normal vacuum cleaner hose, just sort of plugged into the top, which works pretty well. But I think what I'll do is next time we go to an op shop or the tip shop or somewhere like that, they almost always all have piles of vacuum cleaner hoses and accessories. So I'll see if I can find another hose and I can more permanently mount it so that I don't actually have to use this hose. And then all I need to do is move the body of the vacuum cleaner over and plug it in when I want to use it for dust extraction. So if we... you can see I use it as a normal shop vac as well. But in the past, when I've done this, just with normal extraction using the vacuum cleaner, this would be caked in dust. That's not actually too bad. It's probably going to need a clean again soon, but that's working really, really well. It's a bit awkward getting this back on. Tonight I'm out playing with the lighting on the sandblasting cabinet. You might be able to see that's the little internal light. There's a little sort of strip light up inside here, which isn't very good. That's the difference between it on or off. So what I have instead is, just turn that off. This was an aquarium light. So I think it was a 50 watt mains powered LED light. Very cheap, made very cheaply. It was very flimsy, which is why I've screwed it to this wooden block. The wiring is just temporary here. Rather the setup of the wiring, what I'll do is I'll make little brackets to screw the socket on there, and then I'll 3D print a cover just to absolutely make sure you can't put your hand near any of the mains voltage. But I have it wired in at the moment. Yeah, we can see the difference. So it just makes a massive difference. I was thinking about putting a window up here, but because this window here is so large, it actually works pretty well just sort of resting the lamp on the window. And then the good thing is you can move it around. So I think I might actually just leave it how it is. It works pretty well just like that. You can easily get your hands in, see what you're doing. I think that was a worthwhile little improvement. So to finish that off, like I say, I'm just going to make some little brackets to mount the socket on the back there. Quickly 3D print a cover, just so the wiring's all nice and safe. And I think I'll just leave it like that. I'm assuming that there's enough heat sinking just on the thin metal base that it's bonded to. I think there should be. The parts I've been waiting for have arrived now. Thanks very much for that, James. This should mean I can now, one, get the clutch cover bolted on with these 1/4 inch bolts, get the muff coupler in place on the pinion gear, and if all of that is fitting correctly, I should be able to reassemble the rear axle. So I've got the bolts for the new crown wheel here, I've got the lock washers for it, various studs and things. These are actually they should be the head studs, I think. These are the special nuts that hold the rocker cover boxes in place. These are for the brake drums, and a few other little bits and pieces. This is the plunger and spring that goes in the end of the drive shaft. So come the weekend, I should be able to get the rear axle on the car if everything goes well.